and it says we're recording, so I'm really excited. Welcome to the first edition of DFM is Cooking. This is exciting. This is the premiere event. Our guest chef today is Marilyn. Marilyn, pronounce your last name.
Stasinopoulos.
Okay, I didn't want to butcher that. So Marilyn Stasinopoulos, our DFM Greek chef for the day. Tell us a little bit, Marilyn, in just a second. First, everyone out there, do yourself a favor, and you've all become Zoom experts by now. You know, in the little window, the little blue box with the 3 dots, you can click down on that and hit speaker view or pin. So go ahead and pin Marilyn's screen so that you can keep her on your screen the entire time so you don't miss any of the steps in how to make this. So pin Marilyn's screen on yours. Since there is a very manageable group, we can keep mics open for questions. Just be respectful of Marilyn. Try not to step over her instructions. She's very good at answering questions. So Marilyn, tell us a little bit about the dish that you're going to instruct us to make today. And I loved your story about growing up, eating Greek food. And I love to make sure that you tell us a story about having that piece in the car. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's Spanakopita. So Greeks have a lot of pita dishes, which literally just means in phyllo. And so Spanakopita is just spinach pie. It's definitely one of my favorite things we grew up eating. It's something that you either make for parties, but you'll also make for dinner on a weeknight if you want to. It's not super involved, and it's just really delicious, and everyone tends to like it. It's something that my mom used to make all the time growing up with Greek food. So the story we were talking about is it was something my mom always made when I was away for college and coming back. And so she would make it as a homecoming dinner when I was coming back. And she'd always pick me up with like a piece in the car when she picked me up from the train or the airplane or driving or whatever. So I had that, that was always it's just a thing. We really liked it. Once you get this down, it's really easy to make a lot of other Greek dishes because it's just the filling that changes. So tiropita is cheese pie, spanakopita. Yeah, so it's a little of everything. And then the other thing I brought up earlier is make this what you like. So definitely there's a lot of regional differences in spices and herbs and things like that. People add more spinach, less spinach, more greens, fewer greens. It's really, if you like mint, add a lot of mint. If you like dill, add a lot of dill. If you like onions and not leeks, go with that. So it's definitely tailor it to what you like, because I feel like that's what the point of the dish kind of is too. So yeah.
Fun.
Enjoy.
Well, take it away.
Cool. So first, I think I had asked everyone to kind of saute their spinach and their onions until it's dry. Is everyone at that point? Or maybe?
I'm sorry, were we supposed to be somewhere?
That's okay. So did you guys get to do that yet, where you got to saute your greens?
I didn't.
That's okay. So let's start doing that. Have you guys thawed it? Okay, cool. So what you're going to start off by doing is get your thawed greens. Awesome. And you're going to add it to
what size pan? What size pan?
I have a big one.
Okay.
Spinach always comes down a little bit in size. I also have a giant bowl that I add everything to afterwards. Makes it easier, but again, it doesn't make or break the dish where you mix it. You just want to have enough room to add all your greens in there.
Can you remind us how much onion?
Yeah, absolutely. So for spinach, I usually do about 2 pounds of fresh spinach, around 20 ounces of frozen spinach. Usually that's like 2 bags. Sometimes I add a third one. It's what I have. It perfect. So you can use fresh or frozen. If it's frozen, is anyone using frozen right now? Cool. Is it thawed? Cool. So have you drained it after thawing it? Okay. So put it in a colander and just kind of press down on it to squeeze as much of the juice as possible out. It'll just make your time in the pan a little bit easier. If it's very soggy when you add it, the bottom layer of phyllo won't get crispy. It'll kind of just stay soggy. In the great words of Great British Baking Show, nobody wants a soggy bottom. I love that show. Yeah. And you guys can unmute yourselves and just tell me where you are and where you're there. So this is such a small group. We can kind of move at that tempo. I don't mind. Got my studio audience. Whee!
They're also, look at them go. They're all so busy.
Yeah.
Jennifer, you doing okay back there? Yep, she looks like she might be.
How much onion was it again? Sorry.
So for onions, I usually use like a leek and a small onion. Sometimes I'll do 3 or 4 spring onions, about an onion or 2 total, whether you not mix that with leeks and onions and spring onions, but 2 onions if that you have. And actually, I'll be right back. I forgot I have my spring onion taking off over there, so I'm gonna add some to my mix. That's
This is fun to be able to see into people's kitchens and other parts of their homes.
He said non-creepily.
This is really awesome.
I'm really gonna need everyone to just give me a tour of their homes. So yeah, if you see my mixture here, you'll see, I don't know what size pan this is. That's a great question. I think it's about, is it fair to say that's like 12 inches?
I think so.
I think it's 12 inches, and like it's about, I mean, after everything cooks down, it's about half full. Yeah. So,
How long do you have to leave these spinach in here to get it going?
you want it to wilt, and you want it, so usually I try and dry it out as much as possible in the pan. So I usually, if you have the patience to stir it a lot, I have it on a really high heat. If you're doing other things, or there's like kids that you have to make sure like don't die,
I told them to don't show their
put it on a
faces.
lower heat. But so I'm just gonna add my green onion is just taking off, and I keep forgetting to use it. So again, this is very much a like, if you add more filling, it'll be thicker. If you add less filling, it'll be crispier. You really can't mess this up, I promise, unless like.
Can you say one of your friends caught something on fire?
Okay, yeah, if you catch something on fire or accidentally add like sugar instead of salt or ghee instead of vinegar, I don't know, then like things will go wrong really quickly. But
What is that you're cutting with the scissors?
it's a green onion.
Oh, okay.
That's what I did too.
Yeah, I just have a green onion here that I like to chop like this. And while everyone's cooking their spinach, I'm gonna just chop this up in here. I like to mix, so I'll have the spinach cooked and the onions cooked. I add a little bit of garlic, but like the greens, for example, I add raw to the cooked mixture. I don't add in like, I don't cook the parsley and the dill and stuff like that because I think they lose their flavor. And we'll get to that step afterwards. I'm just, as soon as everybody has their spinach cooked down, we'll get to draining it and get to this part. Rob, you're not cooking with us?
Oh no.
No, he's stalking.
No.
Yeah, I'm doing what I do best, and that is stalking. Stephanie knows that for sure.
Well, he said he's looking at all of our kitchens. We're doing remodel, so you see like blue tape and.
I was going to ask you about that. You gonna
Yeah,
paint?
we're redoing the cabinet, so let me
Okay.
see. You can kind of see, like, you see there's like blue tape and stuff.
Well, it looks nice.
Need to get it finished.
Yeah.
So, Marilyn, when you talk about greens, I kept on thinking about the spinach, but you're talking about other greens, right?
Oh yeah, and that kind of goes back to, I think so before we were talking about, there's also a Greek dish called Spanakopita, which is literally just greens pie. And a lot of times spinach pie becomes a mix of those two dishes where, so for example, instead, like I have some parsley, but I also really like the taste of chard in this, which I think I included in the recipe. And I don't cook the green, so I don't cook the chard, I don't cook because it's gonna bake for about an hour, right? So it's gonna cook inside the dish, and the mix between the two makes for an interesting, tastier pie. Like you don't want everything to kind of just be sauteed mush. Yeah, so then you'll see here, I have a bunch of dill and parsley and mint. I've got chard over here that I've chopped and put aside, but again, it's really, so for example, if I was making this for a party and I was making a lot of it, I might add more chard and more things like that, because it becomes a little bit of a filler and makes for more food, right? As opposed to if I just did spinach, it could get really expensive really quickly. But if I was doing like a really great version, you know, that I just wanted to make one, some people like just spinach, for example. I don't like just spinach. I think it gets a little mushy.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah. What's wrong?
Is this good enough?
Yeah,
I need to keep
it
going.
totally is. Is it dry or is it dry-ish?
No, it's wet.
Okay, do you have a colander that you could put it in and smush it down? Cool, then you're good. It'll be totally fine. I say this all the time to everyone I work with. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
I should just put a paper towel in here.
Yeah, so I would put a paper towel on top. So usually what I do is I have this, and then I add my filling, and I'll literally just press down on it with a clean
All right, I'm gonna go over here.
dish towel. But this actually dried out pretty good, so I'm not gonna do that for this one. But
Elizabeth, Jennifer, how are you doing with the spinach?
Good. I am sorry, I was not prepared. So my onions, I think I'm about ready to put it in now.
Okay.
So I have my spinach in my pan with the onions.
awesome. If you like garlic, add garlic. Add as much garlic as your soul tells you to. I will not be that person who says add a clove of garlic. It doesn't. I add like 6 for every one in a recipe. So add whatever amount of garlic you like.
Wow.
I like
I have
garlic.
some minced garlic, so I just did a couple teaspoons of that.
Oh yeah. I just do like, I have it pre-chopped. I get the Costco bottle sometimes. It's like this big for $5. It's really good. I know. Greeks like garlic.
Yeah.
What do you
Now,
like?
do you also, are there versions of this with lamb and other meats in them
Yeah,
too?
it's called Spanakopita, and it literally means meat pie. And yeah, there's a lamb pie, there's a ground beef pie. Like, you have to imagine this is very much a like, I don't know how to describe it. It's very much, you know, whatever you have on hand. Some of these things is like, yeah, there's the standards like spinach pie, cheese pie, etc. But there's a potato pie, and you could imagine that like my dad grew up on a potato farm. He hates potatoes because of it, but he was poor growing up. He's like, we ate a lot of potato pie growing up. Like that's what they had, and so it's not like phyllo dough. You know, you either make it or you buy it, and you just fill it with what you have, and you have this dish, right? That's very, yeah.
And it sounds a lot like you were talking about the Great British Baking Show and how they make sweet and savory pies. So they may use the same crust,
Oh yeah.
whether it's shortbread or whatever else, but they just fill it with whatever their heart desires.
Exactly. Like I feel like every cuisine has something where, you know, if it's a pot pie or it's a filling and a crust and it's delicious, and this is the Greek version of it that everyone seems to really like. I think that's yeah. It's every time I make it, people get really excited. I'm like, guys, this is a really easy dish, I promise.
That's why it's perfect for that.
Although I will say it's easy by Greek standards. The one thing I noticed with Greek food is there's no fast cooking in Greek food. It's like cut your fresh, you know, even to make chicken soup, like Greek chicken soup, it's like start with a whole chicken, take out the bones, make stock. Like that's how you make Greek chicken soup. And I think it's part of the reason it's so tasty is like everything is from scratch, everything is fresh, and it's, I don't know. I have a lot more respect for my mom cooking only Greek food all the time growing up. I'm like, this takes time.
Now, do you make your own phyllo dough or do you buy it?
I buy it. I make it myself too. It depends on what I'm in the mood for. A lot of people, especially in the cities in Greece, just buy it. If you're out of the city and maybe you don't have access to pick it up, you might make it. But it's
Yeah, that was fun trying to find.
Huh?
I had to go to 2 grocery stores, but I got it.
Amazon Fresh almost always has it. So whenever I'm running out, I tend to buy like 5 of them.
Yeah, but I went this morning. So.
Yeah, it's a little harder. I've noticed Denver doesn't have a big Greek population, so it's definitely harder to find stuff.
Yeah, and trying to ask the people at the store, they're like, you know, the other one. What was the other dough? The other pastry dough.
Oh, puff pastry?
Yeah, I'm like, no, that's not it.
I know. And sometimes I only find the fila dough cups, which offends me. I'm like, I don't know why. Like,
Only for dessert.
even for desserts, like I don't like them because I don't know how they prepared the layers, if they're gonna crunch up right. Like preparing the layers is like 97% of making these dishes. Like that's the magic, right? It's the filling, and then you set it up correctly. So if they pre-did that, I don't know if they did it correctly. I have thoughts.
I wandered around with 2 employees at a Walmart, and it was a neighborhood
Yeah.
Walmart. So they're like looking in the cookie row, looking in the frozen row, looking on, you know, I'm on the app. It says you have it at your store.
I'm very lucky. My sister is still in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is the largest Greek population, and Queens is the 2nd largest Greek population in the U.S. And so my sister will ship me like giant 60-pound boxes of Greek food from the markets there, because there's Greek markets there that are like Walmart-sized supermarkets, but they have everything imported. And so
That's where my brother and my oldest child live. I should just have them do that.
yeah,
It's neighbor was Queens. Yeah, we would just have the Greek food. Yeah.
you see my pantry, it's filled with like Greek pasta, Greek chocolate. It's so much better.
Well, look at it this way, Stephanie. You gave those people a memory that they will not forget for a while. They're like, this crazy lady came in looking for phyllo dough.
And one of the guys was like, you're the 2nd person that's asked for this.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, I wonder if there's more people for this.
So yeah, they need to stock some more.
You know, I think what ends up happening is they stock it and it doesn't move. I had the best luck at the King Supers on Leetsdale, which is where the Greek church is. But even they can be a little hit or miss. Like, there's just not, even the Greek population here, it's a lot of people who are 3rd generation, like half on one side with the last name. And they've maintained the religion where they go to church, but they really don't cook Greek food or speak the language, and they've never been to Greece. So it's really different from like, English is my 2nd language. So it's very different for me. Yeah.
When's the last time you were in Greece?
A couple of years ago. I haven't gone. So when my grandparents passed away, we didn't go as much, but because that's usually who we would visit. But I have an uncle there that we're visiting, and I was supposed to go this summer, but COVID.
Oh, that smells good.
Yeah.
What is 1/4 of a bunch of mint?
How much mint do you like?
Well, I do, but I don't want to speak for the rest of my family, so.
Touche. I would say take like 2 or 3 of those leaves.
And you just take the leaves, not the sticks, right?
All of the above.
Okay.
Are we talking about parsley?
Sorry?
I was actually thinking about going to Greece because we have a friend who's Greek and visits family there, and this summer was like maybe gonna go, but no.
I know, I'm really heartbroken. I was really excited to go, and I technically have my citizenship, so even though they have limits on going, I could still go, but CEU would not support me if I got COVID and came back. So
Yeah.
that's I know I'm not supposed to travel.
Yeah, job is good.
Yeah. Ooh.
How are we all doing?
Plus, you have a plan. If you have citizenship there, that's great.
Yeah. Where are we all in spinaching? I don't know what the word would be. Drying out our spinach.
Reading the recipe.
That's okay. It's really the type of recipe that's complicated the first time you make it, and then you're like, oh, this isn't hard. And then the next time you make it is easier, and after that is easier. I'm gonna add this to my bowl. Just chilling here. I like it.
Taryn, are you helping at all?
No, emotionally, I have emotional and mental support in music.
There she is.
We were talking about the vegan options, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to miss it." I'm like, "You're 6 blocks away. Come over." And she's like, "I'm on my way." It's we've had our socially distanced coffee where we sit outside and stuff. We're like, we'll grill. I have a grill. Yeah, we'll make fire food on my balcony with my grill.
Wow.
Yeah, which I'm not sure the fire department supports my grill on my balcony, but I haven't done anything with it yet.
How often do you make this?
It depends. Like if I'm in the mood for it more often, I make a lot of Greek food very often. I would say this I probably make once every 2 months or so.
Yeah.
Usually, I make it less often now because if I make a whole tray of it, when am I going to eat a whole tray of it? So usually I'll make it for an event or for like my coworkers or something. Like I've brought it into work a few times, and that, and whenever my last apartment used to have what's it called, a potluck, and so I used to always make lava and spanakopita every time for it, and so it's very popular.
Does it freeze well or not?
Yes and no. It's not going to be the same. Like it's never even the same on the second day, right? Because like the phyllo dough doesn't stay crispy and stuff like that. But I don't know. I've frozen other Greek things. So I'll freeze like moussaka or pasticcio very often, and they freeze pretty well. But this, like I've only frozen once or twice, and it was like okay, but it wasn't. I don't know. I prefer it fresh. I prefer it when it doesn't make it to the second day.
I have another question.
What's up?
The dill.
Yes.
Do I put this whole thing?
I love dill. I add this whole thing. Usually I take the stems. Are we up to the point where we have sauteed our, because we can move to the point with the herbs and stuff. Has everyone prepared and like sauteed the, yay, cool. Everyone take their cooked spinach and just like get the hot, the juice out as much as you can.
So yeah, after I got the juice out of it, it's still sitting in the colander. Do I put it back into that pan?
I would put it in a bowl if you have a bowl to put it in, because that's where we're gonna start adding the rest of our ingredients into it. I happen to have this giant bowl that I'm pretty sure is meant for decoration, and I just use for. I'm like 97% sure that normal people put this on their coffee table with potpourri.
The mixing bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it's.
Yeah, I saw the next step, and it said to add the herbs. So I thought, oh, I better start like getting those ready. But I just don't know how much of the dill.
Yeah, so so you'll see in here, I've added a little bit of parsley, a little bit of chard, all my spinach, right? Now I take my dill. Usually what I do with dill is I keep like you don't have to be super crazy about it, but like the main part that's stem, I toss in with my butter later on when we're gonna melt our butter. And I just add it in for flavor, right? So I just twist that off.
Okay, so I'm not doing that just yet.
Yeah,
okay.
I just put it aside for later. But then the main parts I just chop in, right? So, and generally speaking, the stems, or at least in Greek cooking, the stems have more flavor is what we say. I think that's a thing. And so we just add the stems to everything too, because remember, this is gonna cook for an hour, so nothing's gonna stay super crunchy. And then I just kind of like to do this into my bowl and chop it all in there.
My dog's already begging. Oh, ow.
I add a lot of dill to mine because that's how my mom made it, and that's what I grew up on, and I love dill. If you go to Crete, we were talking about they'll put mint in everything, and so for example, tzatziki is dill, and Crete for some reason makes it with mint. And I have this argument with my Cretan friend all the time that they're not making tzatziki. I get to be a little snob because my family's from the mainland. So we say that we speak Greek correctly. We do the dishes. Like all the island people are the savages. But there's definitely a class war between the mainland, because I'm about an hour outside of Athens. So we're like we're like the unadulterated part of the Greek culture is what we'll say, which is really, again, my dad's from a potato farm, so I don't really know what social class he's claiming there, but it's just, yeah, so you'll see I added a bunch of dill on top. It's all green. That's why I'm not showing it to you guys, because it's 8 shades of green is really all it is, but I'm adding the raw herbs in. Slowly just chopping everything. And again, with this parsley, for example, I'm just taking the stems off really roughly and just tossing them on the side because I'll just add them to flavor the butter that I put between the layers. I think it just, that's my trick. Nobody else does this for some reason. I think it gives so much more flavor.
Wash it though, right?
Huh?
Aren't you supposed to wash this?
I would wash. I mean,
Put it on a paper towel. That's what I've been doing.
wash it, don't wash it. Like,
Coronavirus, whatever.
Tie it in a bunch and put it behind your car and drag it down the street and then come back.
I can't in good faith recommend that. I can't promise it's going to taste good if you do that. But yeah, so like I have more parsley than mint. I like a little bit of mint in my savory stuff, not a lot. Some people love a lot of mint. It's not going to taste sweet from the mint. I just think that mint has its place, and it's
Yeah, in a mojito.
yes. Thank you. Right? I'm gonna call it my Cretan. I should call my Cretan friend and be like, hold on, my coworker has something to tell you. Mint belongs in a mojito.
Mint has its place in a mojito.
In a mojito, not in tzatziki. So tzatziki is the white sauce that you'll get with a gyro, like that they'll add in, and that's usually just dill, lemon, and Greek yogurt. It's not anything crazy, but for some reason, I mean, we
So,
won't go too far.
so Marilyn, catch us up here. We've sauteed the spinach. We've
Yes.
drained out the excess moisture out of that. Put that in a bowl, and now we're chopping in all of the herbs.
All of our herbs, if you're adding chard or arugula, for example, any other greens you have around that you want to add in, I don't know what the translation would be. It's almost like toothy. Like there's more of a bite to it if you add more greens to it. Yeah, crunchy, and then also there's just, it's not as like soft as just the spinach would be, right? The spinach makes a very soft, very sweet pie, meaning not bitter. I like the little bit of greens in there for that bitterness, and just generally, I don't know, probably good health too. It's probably healthy to have all those greens in there. But yeah, so we've sauteed the spinach and the onions, we've drained them, and now we're just chopping in all our herbs. And again, the stems you can kind of keep on the side. I usually add them to my butter just to flavor the butter a little bit when I'm doing the phyllo dough layers.
Okay, so we're putting the herbs in the spinach, but saving the stems for the butter.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can add, if there's a spice that you like more, you can add those stems into it, just chop them up. Again, you can't go, I know I'm not giving like very concrete answers because there's no real wrong way to do this, unless like, yeah, don't set anything on fire. What else? Don't add anything poisonous. Like don't pick mushrooms or something that you don't know what they are. Don't add those. Really, those are the places you'll go wrong. I don't know what a poison, like don't add, what's a poisonous green plant? Don't add poison ivy to this.
Oh, darn.
That would go really badly.
Cooking show.
Oh.
I'm waving.
The reason I say that is in Greece, there are grandmothers who are out in the forest, like picking things. And great story, actually. My ex-boyfriend showed up one time with his grandmother. His grandmother showed up to the house, and she was high, like something was wrong. And we realized that she went to the forest and picked mushrooms and accidentally picked the wrong mushrooms. No. Yep. So we're like, what's wrong with grandma? And like his father is a doctor, and he's looking at her, and she's like talking about the forest, and like he's like, I think she's high. She picked the wrong mushrooms in the forest. And because she wasn't in Greece, and she was like, these look like mushrooms in Greece that are safe to eat in Greece, only here. Yeah, it was pretty funny. We're like, she came in, she was saying some really weird stuff, and we're like, at first we thought she was having a stroke.
Oh no.
But then we realized she was just high, and my ex was so like, I can't believe my grandmother's high right now.
Oh, that's so adorable.
She was really funny. She was like touching my hair, and she's like, your hair is so beautiful. And I think it's the funniest thing ever. It's not my grandmother, and he's so offended. Like, he's beat red. He's like, Grandma, stop it. But, oh, cool. So let me know when you guys have chopped up all your herbs into your mix. It should look like this, which is just indiscernible green. It should look like health, is what it looks like.
Is what I have.
Yeah, it looks like
Show
health.
that again. I missed that. I'm sorry. Can you
What's
show
up?
that? Can you show your bowl?
It just looks like a lot of greens. So it's the cooked spinach and onions, and then the uncooked greens and herbs and things like that.
Okay. Oh, I got
I'm just kind of combining them so it's, you know, mixed up as well as possible. If you're making it extra carefully, grab like a clean
I have
whatever.
one more question. I'm
And,
sorry. Are the only stems that are going in the butter the ones from the dill?
I have
dill
the dill and the parsley.
The parsley. Okay.
Whatever you're putting into your pie, because remember, the butter is just going to go between the leaves, right? So it's not like the flavor is going to be out of place with the stems, because it's just going to match the filling, right? So really all you're adding is just like, I don't know, I sound like those hokey people on cooking shows, but like depth of flavor to the butter, right? You're just adding more than just butter between the layers, which I think just makes it tastier. I'm now like, I have this on top, and I'm just pressing down on it to get some extra liquid out. But really, again, you can't go too wrong. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I feel like it just keeps getting wet again.
I know it does. Like, spinach will release a lot of water. Spinach is a lot of water. But again, the worst thing that happens, it's not perfectly crunchy on the bottom. It'll still be delicious. Nobody's going to be upset about it. Like, I think people think that, like, I think there's an assumption that food from other cultures can be really complicated, but we make this on a weeknight all the time, right? It's not, you know, nobody's slaving for 12 hours doing this or crying over wet spinach or it's just food. It'll taste good. As long as it's cooked and not burned. And yeah, so when everyone is at the same point, let me know. Like, and here's the other thing too, as long as you try to take out liquid, you will find more liquid to take out. Like, there has to be a point where you're like, I give up, because if you, like, you're going to squeeze it and there's going to be more liquid and you're like, okay, I'm done. And then you'll squeeze it again and there's more liquid and you're like, where did this come from? So it's, the more you look for it, the more you will find this liquid. And it's just like, at one point, it's going to be in the oven for a long time, like 40 minutes, an hour.
So I will do a time check right now. We're at 4:45.
Cool.
Our Zoom extends to 5:30. So we have 45 minutes to wrap it up and get it in the oven.
Yeah, definitely. We should be able, this is the long part.
Okay.
After this, we're almost done with the filling, and then it's just putting it together. I like the music too. So let me know where people are.
Chopping up the last little herb.
I'm squeezing out the last liquid.
You know, and I did the same thing. I'm like, look, it's dry, right? And now, hold on, just to prove my point, right? I was like, it's pretty dry, right?
Yeah.
You will never get all the liquid out. Like, you will drive yourself insane getting all the liquid out. So as much as you get out, awesome. If I was making this again for a party, maybe I would go a little further, or, you know, because, you know, somebody's grandmother is going to have an opinion about my, you know, my value as a woman based on how good my spinach pie is. Like, that's just Greek culture. But beyond that, it's, do not drive yourself crazy. The more you look for liquid, you will find more liquid. Like, now, see, now I did the same thing. I was like, there's more liquid, and I'm going to drive myself nuts squeezing out more of it. It's, there's a point where you have to pick your spinach over dry spinach. So we'll say, like, it's 4:46. Let's give it like 3 or 4 more minutes, I think. Is that good for everyone? And
Yes.
then we'll move forward with making the filling.
Okay.
Yeah, now I'm doing this. We're all guilty. I'm doing the same thing now. I'm like, there's more liquid I can get out. It really is not good for your like mental health, thinking you're like dealing with spinach. It does look really healthy though. I tell people all the time, this looks like health until you add like the 6 different types of cheeses. Or like 2, but still, it's a lot of cheese. And butter. Everyone's like, always is like, oh, spinach pie, is that healthy? I'm like, it was. Until I added like a stick of butter and like a thing of cream cheese, and this is how much feta cheese I like to add. So it was healthy for a while. Like, this was the healthy part. I could also drink this. That would be healthy, right? But I'm not going to do that. Just like.
All right.
I was like, I really regret having Marilyn as the first chef. Like, we should have had someone more appropriate.
Well, it smells good.
That's good. That's a good sign. That's a good
Good
place to
mixture.
start. Well, I'm gonna get more dill.
You're smart to use a red towel. I used a white towel.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is what I just purposely didn't pick this because this is what it looks like, and yeah, it's clean. It's fresh from the wash, but it's never gonna look clean again. It looks, the last time it looked clean was like 6 months ago, so it's.
All right, I think I'm good. I'm not gonna trouble myself.
Cool. Yeah, where are you guys? Is everyone up to the point where they have their greens kind of completed?
Yes.
Cool. So, take your cheese. Depending on how much cheese you like, 8 to 16 ounces, which is a really wide range, but again, that's because most people add anywhere in this. I think this is about 12 ounces. If you have it in blocks, break it with your hands. If you have it previously kind of broken or crumbled, then just dump it in.
Are we using cream cheese or feta cheese or both, or just one or the other? Whatever you want.
Both. So start with the feta cheese. Yeah, so that was the feta cheese that I just added. So the cream cheese is harder to mix in, so you're going to kind of add it after you kind of get everything else mixed, or else you're not going to get a good, you know.
We're putting the feta cheese and the cream cheese, mixing it together?
Just the feta cheese for now. So just add in your feta cheese to your mixed greens.
Okay.
And just combine it well so it's like spread out well. So it's going to look like less health now.
Yay.
Which is really where all the flavor comes from. So like this, right? So now it's just cheesy greens. At this point, I like to taste it. Add salt very carefully, right? So feta cheese is very salty, and different brands of feta cheese differ in how salty they are. So I cannot tell you how much salt to add, but I can tell you add less than you think you're going to need, because the feta cheese is just going to get so salty, right? So sometimes I don't even add salt, right? But I like to taste it at this point and be like, do I want more herbs in it? Do I want black pepper in it? Like, this is the point where I taste it before I add the egg.
Yeah, this feta that I'm using is different from what I usually use, and it's not very salty.
Yeah, so I think whenever I find feta that's less salty, it's usually Bulgarian feta, and it's more milky in flavor, and it's a little bit softer.
Yeah, this is some local dairy that made goat cheese.
There's a lot of feta cheeses out there, and I've seen people make this with actual goat cheese. I love dill, so I'm going to add more dried dill to this because that's just what makes me happy. I also like to add oregano. But again, the whole point is you're going to add flavors that make you happy. Like, if you're not a fan of dill, do not add a bunch of dill to this, right? Just because a Greek person is adding dill does not mean you're going to be happy adding dill, right? So Yeah, and if I was making this for a group of people, again, I might be more neutral in what I add in. Like I won't add a bunch of dill because everyone doesn't like dill. I won't add a bunch of mint because everyone doesn't like mint. But this is like me and like a few people are gonna eat this, and so it's like they're gonna deal with my dill obsession. And this is black pepper. I love black pepper in this. I add a bunch, but yeah. Again, that's why I picked this. This is definitely a recipe that like you can't really go wrong. Like unless you set it on fire or add poison to it, it's gonna be great. So I keep saying it because it's true. Everyone's really stressed out. They're like, oh my God, like what if I don't add this? It'll be great. And also you'll notice that some of the herbs will pick up some of the extra moisture too. So it dries out the mix even more, which is nice. Even that like little bit of herbs.
The cheese helped.
Who needs help?
I said the cheese helped with that.
Oh yeah. The cheese, you'll see it get crumbly and like this looks like Spanakopita filling now, right? This is like what we've all seen happen. Do this. I'm also the person who cleans while cooking, so ignore me if that's not what you do. I'm like putting everything in there and then.
Yeah, you didn't tell us that we were supposed to have bottles of wine on hand. On the recipe list.
I'm still adding pepper to it.
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how, so once you've added the feta, right? When you start to add the cream cheese, most, cream cheese when I get it is in this block.
Mm-hmm.
Does it just have to be really soft in order to be able to mix it in there?
No, I mean, some people will use their hands. Some people will struggle with the, yeah, usually what I do is I'm like, I am a civilized person and I start with the spoon. And then after like 3 minutes, I'm like, or 3 seconds, I'm like, no. And I just squish it with my hands and it mixes in. I also break it up a little bit when I add it. So are we up to that part? Has everyone added their feta cheese and they have their greens all together and like how it tastes?
Baby, please go. Thank you.
I'm waiting for a nod from everybody. So
Yes.
cool.
I'm pretty close. I'm just adding some more seasoning.
Yeah, and this is exactly what you do. And so just make sure you do this like before you add egg. Please don't taste this with raw eggs. I'm sure it's fine because they're pasteurized, but still don't do it. I'm a fan of not catching salmonella. It's worked well for me for 30 years. Cool. So, is everyone ready for the next step?
Yes.
You sure?
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Are we at the cream cheese step?
Yeah, so now when you add the cream cheese, and I'm just using my hands, break it up in pieces. Do not try and put the whole block in at once. You'll just be mixing. So I, again, use my hands, take a little piece and add it and just toss it around. And like, I really wish there was a more graceful way to do this, but really it's just going to be you frustrated with the spoon, so don't do it. It's just keep adding little pieces and just toss it all around, and then you'll be able to kind of mix it all together. And like, it's not going to be perfect, but what ends up happening is we're going to have pockets of cream cheese in the final, like pockets of cheese inside the spinach, and it's going to be delicious. So it's not like it's going to melt in the oven. It's going to spread out further. So like,
Would it be better to melt it a little in the microwave or no?
I've not tried that. I don't know why that wouldn't work. You may
That's
have
what
just,
I've heard for other recipes. I'm gonna try.
yeah.
30-second.
I just literally do this. You can see like the pieces in there, and I'm just about to go to town with my hands. So
I'm gonna do my method and see.
like literally just this. Again, you could do it with a spoon, but it takes so much less time with your hands. You're just, because usually what I do is I pick it up in my hands and I squeeze it, and that's what's going to combine it, right? So, sorry guys, there's definitely a more graceful way to do this, but I have not. This is what my grandmother did. This is what my mom did. Like, this is what I learned how to do. So we don't use cream cheese. We use a soft cheese called misitra, but like it's really hard to find here, and most people replace it with cream cheese because the flavor difference is not worth hunting down this like one type of cheese. And that's the other thing. In Greece, they'll use different greens, for example, and they're greens that we don't use here. So you'll never find them in a supermarket unless you're growing them yourself. I don't even know what the translation of it is. I know it doesn't exist here. It's hogwort. Hogwort is a thing. Yeah. And it's kafkalitris in Greek, and it's called hogwort in English, I'm pretty sure. And again, I think the only people who use this are probably like Wiccans who have some like
Ceremony.
right? I don't know. So mine's all combined. Let me know when you guys are.
I want
I
to.
gotta go feed the dog. I'll be right back.
Okay. Oh, nice. I like the helper.
She does not want to be on camera. So, you know, I had to sneak it.
I think that's totally valid. And she gets to enjoy it without being on camera.
Okay, so here's microwave, 30 seconds.
Oh, not bad. Yeah. So
Mix
this
it up.
is what mine looks like. Just,
Yeah, it looks similar, yes.
yeah. Just lots of greens and good stuff. I'm cleaning. At this point, if you're adding them, you can add your eggs. I would say people add 0 to 2. 2 gets really fluffy. I usually only use 1. Some people don't add any eggs, so it's really up to you. Adding an egg is just gonna fluff and bulk it a little bit. Not adding an egg is just gonna keep it a thinner pie. But I like the 1 egg because it binds everything too a little bit, I think. So it helps. So I add the 1 egg and then I just kind of like,
Sorry. Do you just crack it in there, or did you?
Yeah, I just crack it in there and then I'm just slowly combining it. It'll be pretty easy to mix at this point because the cream cheese helps with that a lot. But, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, it's not gonna, just make sure you taste it before adding the egg because now we're done tasting. Unless you're braver than I am, but I don't taste at this point. We're just, is it E. coli for eggs or salmonella or both?
Could be an
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something I don't want, but I'm curious.
Oh, I think E. coli is typically for greens.
That's
And vegetation. Yeah.
That's good. So it is all mixed up. So let me know when you guys are. You gotta go?
We gotta go.
Hasta la pasta, friend.
Studio audience is leaving you.
Say goodbye to my studio audience.
Bye.
Gotta go. Bye, everybody. Good luck.
Egg is in.
See you soon. Yeah, we'll cook again soon. Make more fire food. Oh, I love kielbasa. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Deb, are you?
Yeah, of course. All right, I'm checking in where everyone is.
My egg is in and mixed together.
Cool.
Filling is done.
Okay. Is everyone at the point where the filling is done?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're going to preheat our oven. I believe it's 375. I check every time I do this. It's 375. Cool. I'm only questioning myself because I'm on camera.
Don't you make this every week?
And even then, I just do it and I remember it. And now that I'm like telling people about it, I'm like, wait, it's 375, right? It's
Instruction sheet.
so we're gonna kind of set up our space a little bit to make up to do this. This part is not difficult. This part is a couple of moving parts, right? So take your stick of butter and you'll see I have my stems in there too. And I usually like to add a little black pepper, herbs if you want them, herbs if you don't want them. Like, again, this is just gonna be the butter that we brush between the layers of the phyllo dough. So I'm adding probably a little dill. I love dill. It's really problematic. Nobody likes dill as much as I do, but it's okay.
A little powerful.
And you'll see I've like cleared off my space a little bit, right? And so take out your phyllo dough. Oh, and everyone, well, I'll wait for the butter too. Okay. As everyone, we're just gonna melt this over low heat. And as soon as it's melted, it's ready. But I put it over high heat so it's done quicker, but that's okay.
I feel like we should have some music going like da na 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 na.
I don't know what to put.
That's okay.
You can put whatever music makes you happy, Rob.
This is the most interesting thing to watch everybody. Just look at Stephanie go. Look at her go. Look at her go.
I can't imagine. I'm impressed with the people who have their kids and stuff like that. It's a lot more having kids and having to deal with them while doing these things. Like I just have my pets underfoot, but
Right.
I think you guys saw my cat earlier and my dog's over here doing for, let's see. Say hi. She's looking for crumbs.
Ah.
She's whenever I cook, she's in Roomba mode is what I call it, because she's just going back and forth, sniffing the floor, looking for crumbs. Look, it's very clean. Hi. Yes,
So at this point, we're melting the butter
Yep. So we're melting the
along
butter.
with the stems.
Along with the stems, or just the plain butter, a little bit of spices if you like it, black pepper. Again, just
The pepper.
yeah. Most people just do plain butter. This is like what I do, and I always have people that are like, "Oh, it's so much tastier," and I think it's because of this. I'm convinced it makes a difference. My grandmother did not do this. That's okay. That's my trick.
Well,
Shockingly though, every time I made it, my grandmother was like, "It's such a delicious pie. Like, I'm so proud of you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do this." She's like, "Nobody does this." I'm like, "You like how it tastes, but you won't listen to how I do it." That's okay.
We're at 5:03. Are we going to have enough time?
Yeah, definitely. Because once we compile, like we put it together, it goes in the oven.
Okay.
And putting it together is only like 10 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah. And is everyone's butter melting?
yeah, mine's melted.
Cool. Take it up.
Melted it when I was cutting up the herbs earlier.
Yeah.
You're efficient.
No, I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. So this part's a little bit, I guess, more complicated. You're going to take your phyllo dough, right? So it comes with like 2 inside. Just take one out at a time. So what you want to avoid with phyllo dough is it dries out really quickly, right? So that's what goes wrong, and then it starts to tear and everyone's frustrated. You don't open both until you're ready to use it. So just open up the one. Normally, I'm capable of doing. And you'll see inside it's wrapped in plastic. Where is everybody? Cool. So you'll see it's wrapped in plastic, right? Before I unwrap this, take a dish towel and you're gonna soak it in water, but so it's damp, right? You don't want it dripping wet. And I usually use warm water, just like lukewarm water, nothing too crazy. But you just want it to hold some humidity around it so that it doesn't dry out, right? So let's see, I'll do this. Can you guys see? Yes, I think that's better. So this is my pan that I'm going to use, right? Ahead of me, I have my butter here, and then I have my filling over here, and then I have my phyllo over here. So I'm gonna take my phyllo, and I'm gonna unroll it slowly, and you're gonna find the edge like this. You're just gonna open it, right? And sometimes that happens gracefully and sometimes it doesn't, which is fine. Just find it and unroll it so it's like this, right? And then fold the other bit of the plastic over like this and put your damp towel over it so it just can't dry out on you.
Look, it's already dry.
Maybe dampen that a little bit more. Let me know where everyone is up to that. You just don't want the wet towel touching the phyllo dough. You want the plastic kind of in between, but you want it to hold some humidity around it so it doesn't dry out. Cool. Is everyone there? So it should be set up in a way where basically you could flip this up, the plastic, grab a piece, flip it back down, and then work with that piece, right? So that way nothing is staying uncovered, and the phyllo dough you have that you're working with, you're gonna cover with butter pretty quickly, so it's never gonna dry out. So that's what the butter is, right? And you'll notice this, if you have a piece that doesn't get covered with butter, it'll just be a little bit drier. Yeah. Okay. Is everyone ready to go? Because this part kind of goes a little more quickly once we start. I'm like looking because everyone's face is there. Is that a nod from everyone? Yes?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. I have it turned down. It's harder for me to see people's faces. So I'm going to start. I'm going to take a little bit of butter. You can use like a pastry dough brush, or you can use, I use a spoon and I just do this, right? I just kind of dribble it around. It's not going to be perfect. You just want a layer of butter to start, right? And then you're going to take a piece of phyllo dough, just one. They'll start to stick together and they'll start to rip. See, mine already ripped. It's totally fine. And you're just going to throw it in. And as you're adding it, you're just going to start adding butter to it, right? You just want as much butter around as possible to kind of keep things. And you're just going to add a layer down on your pot, right? Right, this piece came out nicer. You don't want to press it down perfectly. You don't want it perfectly flat, because if it's perfectly flat, there won't be any air to keep it crunchy. And careful when you're, huh?
My very first piece ripped. I don't think it's.
That's okay. No one's gonna see the bottom. Really, you need one piece that looks good at the end. That's how this goes, right? And again, like you'll see, it's kind of layered. It's not sticking perfectly flat. I just covered the bottom with one layer. And now you're gonna do that for about 4 to 5 layers. Some people like 6, right? So again, I'm just gonna do the same thing here. I'm adding a layer and I'm adding some butter. You just always want to add some butter between everything. It's a really healthy dish. Between the cheese and the butter and stuff, right? So I'm just gonna keep doing that. I tend to be liberal with my butter, so I make myself feel better about it by adding some olive oil to it as well, instead of using like 3 sticks of butter. But I support you in whichever way you want to make this. If you want to add this with like 3 sticks of butter, I fully support your right to do so, and it will be delicious.
How many layers are we doing now?
About 5 to 6, I think is good. 5 to 6 whole layers, right? Because also sometimes a layer is going to be like half and half. But
5 to 6 layers of dough before we put anything in it?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing right now. And you'll see they're not perfect layers, right? They're kind of scrunchy. And you can play with it with your fingers a little bit to get the butter everywhere. Just don't press it down, right? You don't want it to be flat, because then it just doesn't get as crunchy, is really the issue.
Oh, mine's not flat.
Perfect.
No need to worry about it.
That means you're doing it correctly.
You say so.
It should be messy. It's going to look messy, right? You're going to be like, what is this?
Was on my dish.
It's going to be great. I promise you. I know it's because again, nobody is sitting here no Greek grandmother is sitting and making this and having these like perfect nobody does that, right? It's not good and it doesn't taste as good either, right? So it's just.
This feels like tissue paper.
It does. You just need really whenever Greeks make this, they tell people all you need is one nice layer at the end. That's all you need.
Well, I have one child that I can guarantee you is not going to be eating this. Mr. World.
And I just keep adding butter and olive oil to it. And let me know when you put down. I don't even know how many I put down, so I'm gonna put down one more. If you like a crispier base, add more. It's really up to you. But I'm doing, I don't know, I've done like 6 at this point, 7 maybe. So.
I think that's 7.
I lost
That is,
count.
have you been counting? Thank you. That makes one of us.
I should have been writing it down.
And again, if you look at this, guys, like it's not neat, it's not perfect, like you're just adding layers. I like to tease on the sides a little bit, just like tease down a little bit, but the more wrinkly it is, the more crunchy. So
Oh, mine's going to be crispy.
yeah. I'm gonna add a layer of my filling down so my phyllo doesn't dry out, but don't worry if you're not there yet. Just add your phyllo. Once you get your layers, add your filling on top of it because I don't want it to just sit there and dry out. Really, that's like where things go wrong. Don't press it down. Again, you don't want to press down all the layers of the phyllo that you made. And it's harder to spread, so I tend to like to kind of take pieces of it, and because if you try and spread it afterwards, again, you're just gonna take all the wrinkles out, right? You're just gonna flatten that bottom layer. And remember, it just has to be somewhat even because in the oven, it's going to all melt and kind of even out, right?
So even though you have layers and layers of the phyllo dough, you have one layer of the filling.
Yes, it's just that one layer in the middle.
Okay.
Is what?
Just one layer of the filling in the middle. You're gonna,
Yep,
all the filling in.
all the filling is gonna go in there now. And again, what I'm doing with my hands, I'm picking up with my hands and I'm just kind of like dropping it, right? So it kind of goes everywhere because you don't want to like do that. And like you can like.
It's not spreadable.
It is spreadable, but if you try and spread it, you're gonna flatten out your phyllo dough underneath, right? And so, yeah. And as you guys can see, it's pretty much 90% done at this point. It's just.
How's it going, ladies?
Excellent.
Has anybody gotten to the dough or the filling part yet?
I'm up to, is everyone done with the filling part?
No, I'm still putting butter.
Cool. Take your time. Once I add the filling, I like
How many layers did you do?
over the top or butter.
Oh.
Olive oil makes me feel better about myself, but.
You did 5 to 6 layers of the phyllo dough on the bottom.
All right, I think I'm on the 5th layer now.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then she added the filling.
Okay.
And then
And
she
I did that
drizzled
like-
it with olive oil.
I did. Or you can add some of your butter, but again, you're gonna have that first layer of phyllo on top and you want a little bit of butter on the, like fat on the bottom so that piece doesn't dry out. Really, that's where this goes wrong is like you've pressed down your filling or you've pressed down your layers or you've dried out your phyllo dough is really the tricks here. And then that's where the soda, like the tonic water comes in too, the seltzer. I never can remember. It's the one that has no flavor. The seltzer water, I forgot to pick it up. It doesn't make a huge difference if you like don't add it. It's not going to be bad. But if you add it, you're going to notice it'll bubble when you add it. And those bubbles, like all that liquid will actually cook off and those bubbles will be crunchy phyllo layers. So it's if the carbonation forces the phyllo layers apart a little bit. And the first time I did this for my mother was like, what are you doing? Like, I'm going to disown you. Because I just like made this whole pie and then just like dumped a can of seltzer water. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, science. And afterwards, she was like, this is the crunchiest, most delicious butter. Because the carbonation just, you'll see it, they'll force the layers apart. So
Wow.
let me know when everyone's up to this part.
Yeah, I'm putting my filling in now.
Perfect.
I thought we were going to be using this whole
Oven.
thing of dough.
Huh?
I thought we were going to be using this whole thing of dough.
You just have to add it kind of in pieces, right? So that you can cover everything.
Actually, I'm going to put one more layer because I might have not done that. See, it has
That's
a big
okay.
hole in it. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. No one's gonna see it.
Okay.
And
Are
it's
we
all
gonna
gonna,
add more phyllo dough on top of it?
yep, we're gonna add more phyllo dough on top of it. So that's the next step once we add the filling. So, and the same procedure as we did before, right? So we're gonna take a piece. See, now they don't wanna come apart, but here. We're gonna take a piece and we're just gonna do this. And what I like to do is make it a little bit like this because I'm gonna do this on the sides, right? Just to like tuck it around a little bit. And butter. Always butter. When in doubt, more butter.
Okay, so if we're going to use the seltzer water, when do we do that step?
At the end. So we're not there yet. I'll
Right.
tell you guys when to add that.
So we do put all of the mixture in.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. We're just gonna do this and we're gonna play with it a little bit, right? We don't want it to be perfectly flat.
So how many layers on the top?
I usually add another 5 or 6,
Okay.
7. Again, I look at it, right? Because it also depends. Sometimes what will happen is if you have a wider pan, you'll add 2 or 3 sheets to make a layer, right? And so I kind of go around until I feel like I've made a good number here. More olive oil. If you start running out of butter, add some oil. Again, it just has to be a fat to keep it from drying out. Make sure you get those edges a little bit, right? Because those edges are usually the ones that are like dry. Like you don't want any edges kind of sticking up like this because that's just going to get really dry in the oven. So I like to kind of just tuck a little bit with my fingers around the edges, like this piece here. Can you guys see what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, cool. I'm like running off of the idea that you guys can see what I'm doing, but that's not necessarily correct.
We've got about 10 minutes left. So.
Yep, we're at 5:19.
Oh, perfect. We're just about done. One more. So as you guys can see, I've kind of covered all around, and in order to do that, some of the pieces are in different, like some are more to the left, some are more to the right. But then that last piece, what I'm going to do is just add it perfectly in the middle. Just, see, this is my one last pretty piece. And that's all you need is one last pretty piece. Because now look how neat it looks. No one can tell. It's my, right? And you just want to tuck in the edges and use up the last of your butter and olive oil. I try not to get the stems on it, but there's no guarantees.
Butter.
If you run out of butter, you could just add olive oil to the pan and it'll pick up the flavor of the butter and the herbs.
I'm gonna melt another stick.
Yeah, and just, I think I'm probably gonna add another layer just because that last layer got a little flat, but not a big deal either way. See, like, that's what you want, right? You just want those to kind of come up a little bit because, again, that's how it's going to be crunchy, is that air is going to come through.
Yeah.
So you want the middle to wrinkle and come up, but you kind of want the sides to tuck in because those will dry out. So it'll look like this. Any other phyllo dough you have left, it'll keep in the fridge for another 2 or 3 days. I will usually refreeze the box with this second, this second like roll of it. So I'm gonna throw that back in the freezer. And then this, I will just roll back up like this. And you can use it, I've done like eggs, I've done little triangles of filling and stuff like that. So you can still use this, like this. Just even if you look up like phyllo recipes or stuff like that, little like individual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take some foil and just kind of wrap it. Again, I'm wrapping it well because I don't want it to dry out. But that goes back in my fridge. So let me know when you guys have added that last layer.
Jennifer, how are you doing?
I had a helper, so I beat you guys.
You're done? Come over
One
here.
was doing the dough and one was spreading the butter, so I was faster. We're
Wow.
That's
done.
how I love that. So that's how I used to do that with my grandma. That's when we like at my mom when we would make it. She'd be like, okay, you're in charge of the butter, and I'd be like adding the butter. So it's
Yeah.
that's
Ours
how you-
doesn't look like yours, but we'll see.
Oh, that looks great.
Where? Oh, can you see it? Okay.
I think that looks great. Is there butter on top? I can't tell.
Yes.
Cool.
Lots. Well, here. Maybe this is the
That's it.
easier way to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, lots of
That's
butter.
great.
Lots of butter. Everyone's happy. It's Butter Friday.
It
Yay.
is butter fry. Butter makes things. Oh, what is that? That burger place in Wisconsin? It's like a butter.
Bulbers, the butter burgers. Yeah.
A better beef
Butter
burger.
burgers.
There's some phrase, but okay. So who has their seltzer water?
I do.
Cool. So take your seltzer water. If you have a smaller pie, add about half of it and just pour it
sweet.
directly over it. And you're gonna watch. If anybody wants to show their camera when they do it, show theirs so everyone can see because I forgot to pick it up. It'll actually bubble. You're just gonna see the phyllo actually bubble.
Wait, but we're supposed to cut it, right? We're supposed to cut the top layer. I didn't do that yet.
Not
Oh,
yet.
what-
You're gonna cut it after you add the seltzer.
Seltzer water. I just I have the homemade.
We're back in.
Oh, perfect. So I would add like half a cup if you're nervous to a cup. Start with half a cup if you're nervous, but it'll all bake off in the oven in an hour. So it's not, you don't want to like dump it on so it, flattens it, but just pour it over the top and you'll watch the phyllo dough actually bubble up. Oh, you're going to do it? Yes.
I love how you obsessed about squeezing all the moisture out of the spinach and now you're pouring water on the whole thing.
Which everybody says to me, but I promise it works. So are you seeing your phyllo dough start to kind of bubble?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's all it does. And it'll get into those bottom layers and the carbonation will kind of force it to bubble a little bit. So yeah. It's science. Just make sure you don't buy, I think, what is it? Tonic water has sugar and then the other one has salt in it. So get the one that doesn't have anything. It's just carbonated water and yeah. So now
water.
Oh yeah, that will be different. So now just take it and what you want to do is you don't want to cut to the bottom. You really just want to score the top layer so that when you cut it, it'll be nicer pieces. Because if it gets crunchy and you try and cut it, it all kind of falls apart. So you're just going to take your knife and cut the top layer into whatever size pieces. If you have a round one, you can do slices like a pie slice. Let's see. But you just kind of want to slowly cut that top layer so that you can get nice pieces afterwards. You're just going to recut it afterwards.
I can't get a good piece of the top phyllo dough to have.
Yeah, you want to cut into the filling, but you don't want to cut the bottom layer of phyllo. Because if you do that, it'll kind of come apart.
It's like lasagna.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too, but I didn't want to it.
And then you just add this to your oven and you'll just add it for, you want the top to get good color, right? It's going to get pretty brown. And that usually takes about 40 minutes to an hour, depending on your oven. It's usually for me closer to about 45, 50 minutes with, you know, this size pan and this much filling. It'll cook faster with less filling. Is it, Jennifer, I think with the cast iron, it'll probably cook faster. So watch it at that 30-minute mark.
You said 30-ish?
Yeah, I would watch
Okay.
that with the cast iron because the cast iron is going to carry so much more heat.
Okay.
So, but it might not, it might, it's just keep an eye on it. Usually, I think that 40-minute average is perfect. So
Okay.
sometimes it'll take me 50 minutes, sometimes it'll take me 30, but usually closer to 40 with, this will take me like 45 to 50 minutes. But
Well, Marilyn, we're running out of time, but I want to say thank you.
yeah, thank you
for
guys. This
taking
was
us
fun.
through this. And
Thank you so much.
Elizabeth,
Yeah.
Jennifer, Stephanie, you just wrap up your stuff, pop it in the oven, and I will await your reviews via email. Let me know how it turned
Yes.
out.
Please email me, send me pictures, and let me know how it went. I'm super excited to see it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you guys will have to teach me how to make something next time. We'll do something else.
All right. Hey,
Thank
thanks a
you.
lot.
Today so that we could, so I could jump on the, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah, just message me. It'll be great.
Thank you all. You guys have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.